What do you do if you want to be involved in the local food movement, but you don't want to be a farmer? Or if you have a farm and you're looking for another way to move your farm product or another way to diversify your income streams? I'll show you one example that can fill both those niches coming up in this video. Today I'm at Max Becker's First Steps Farm in Ojai, California, and we're going to take a look at his farm store model. It's an online farm store. We're going to see about what it's about, how it works, and how he prepares for it. He sells product online and then he packs it right here at his farm. The unique thing about this model is he's aggregating product from other farmers in the area. It may sound simple, but where the confusion can come in all this is packing. So today you're going to get an inside look at how he's doing it all coming up. What Max is doing here I think is really unique. It's something that I think you're going to be interested in. It's not a model you see a lot. It's much more than just the grow veg here, harvest it, sell it at a farmer's market sales model, or sell it to restaurants. This is aggregating products from local farms, growing some of your own product to feed into that aggregation model, and then selling all of that product online to customers so they can order 1 jalapeno and 1 pound of oranges if they want. They can order eggs and Swiss chard and 5 bunches of cilantro. It's totally customizable. Customers only pay what they're going to take delivery for. Max doesn't grow it all. He aggregates it from other farmers, 10 different ones. In this video you'll see all the ins and outs, why he does it, how he does it, what's involved in the packing, because it can get confusing pretty quickly if you're not careful. You got to figure he's dealing with 31 different products this week and 104 different orders. How do you get those 31 products divided up into those 104 orders? It's challenging. So he's figured out how to do it in a very lean farming style way. I really like this model. I think it's unique. Like I said, you're not going to see a lot out of it. If you want to find another way to get other people in your farm or in your life involved in the farm scene, here's one way to do it. And if you're looking for a way to try and boost revenue on your farm, not without work, because you'll see there's work involved, this is one way to do it. Stay tuned, coming up. We're at one of the pickups here today for your farm store, and you were just telling me an interesting story about these eggs. This farm here raises duck eggs. The farm was long a bunch of duck eggs. She asked you, could you try listing them on your web store? You did, and what happened?
We sold 9.5 dozen for her out of 100 orders, so 10% of our customers wanted the duck eggs that she wouldn't have been able to sell otherwise.
Right, so it's a way, this model of aggregating from other farms not only supports farms like the one we're standing on right now. It's run by a young couple trying to get started on their farm, so Max is supporting them by buying from them. And one way it does that is by allowing Max to sell product for them, which allows the farmer to move product that they might not otherwise be able to sell. One theme that comes up a lot in the farming is have a diversity of market streams, have a diversity of customer bases. And for farms in this area, you're really playing into that diversification, being a customer for a lot of these smaller farms.
Yeah, we're on both ends of the spectrum.
Now overall, if you look at this model of the web store, how many total farms are you buying from?
At the moment, 6 or 7, but it's been as many as 10 or 15.
Okay, so quite a bit, and it just shows when you're at the hub, the advantages to you is you get a lot of product you otherwise normally couldn't grow or don't want to grow.
Exactly.
And the advantage to these other farmers is that's just another outlet for them to move product.
I think it's a win-win. People are generally very happy to sell to us.
Right on. I really love this farm store model that Max is doing, and that's one of the reasons why I wanted to drive 4 hours north today up here to Ojai to see what it was actually like in person. I love the idea of this. It offers new people an interesting way to get into business because you can aggregate from other producers in your area. You don't have to grow the crops. It gives you the ability to let other farmers grow the crops that they can grow well or is better suited for their land, corn, potatoes, that type of thing. If you're on a 1/4 acre, you're probably not going to grow those crops, at least profitably. So source from the farmers that do. You can get citrus, you can get apples, you can get eggs. Milk could be involved. There's many different products you can do. If you're looking to get into farming or supplement the income on your farm, watch what Max is doing in this video and consider taking a look at this farm aggregator model. It's something that I think has a lot of potential. We'll continue showing more of it during this video, and there's also a whole podcast that I did with Max on this topic, linked to that below.
So here I am at one of my farms that I pick up for the web store. I pick up here every Tuesday morning. I place the orders around 7, come pick them up around 10 or 11. And right now we're sourcing from about 6 or 7 different farms, down from 10 to 15 about a year ago. We We way simplified it, and it's been a lot better. We just load it up, take it back to our farm. If it's same day, Tuesday, we don't even put it in the walk-in. We just pack it straight into boxes. Some stuff I pick up yesterday, that goes into the CoolBot trailer and waits overnight, staying cool.
So Max, I mean, I think one of the big advantages of this aggregator model is you get to support other farms in the area. The idea of supporting other farms, how important is that to you in the greater scheme of what you're trying to do?
Oh, it's crucial. It's part of the mission for us. Honestly, it's, you know, besides making a living for ourselves and selling our own product, it's really what makes us most excited about the business. When you look around at farmers markets and all the traditional avenues for selling small-scale local produce, you know, CSAs, you know, roadside stands, a lot of those markets are getting saturated. It's hard to get into farmers markets. There's only so many customers willing to do a CSA and willing to take that box. So we feel like we're tapping into a new market, offering customers more convenience, and then taking that business and turning it around and growing more farms. That is totally part of the mission of what we want to do.
Last stop of the day here, Max. This is one of the farms that you also worked for in your past, not on the farm, but it got you some experience at the farmer's market, working the booth for them. What'd you learn coming out of that, and how valuable was that experience?
It was incredibly valuable. I mean, basically, I was on the ground in the market scene. I learned what sold in that market and what didn't. I learned what there was a need for. I got to know the manager, and I got to see how a very tight farmer's market booth was run. And all of that played into our current market booth now.
I mean, the cool thing about that experience is a lot of times I think people put all the value on learning production at other farms. They don't get to see the business side of things. Here's one where you got the opposite side. You didn't necessarily see the production. You saw, you know, the business end of it, and that's very valuable. Like you said, you can integrate it into your business today at the farmer's market, and they're also now a customer for you for the farm store.
Absolutely, absolutely. And you know, you do learn the production side too, just from seeing what comes through the market. You see how things are bunched. You see what's growing when. You see all kinds of things. It's on the end of it, but you can learn a lot that way too. And I could pick his brain all market long.
That's it, and it seems like more and more I get into this, like a lot of that learning is just using the eyes to really pay attention. Like you said, how it's bunched, how big the bunches are, how clean the product is, what product's coming through when. These little nuances that might not be obvious, and nobody's teaching you this lesson, but if you're paying attention, you can learn the lessons just from the experience.
Totally.
Now we're back at Max's farm site, and it's time to unload the produce. This produce is all boxed up. This is stuff that he's aggregated throughout the week. It was in his walk-in cooler at his house. We've now driven the 5-minute drive to his farm site, and it's gonna be line everything up in the structure right behind me. I'll show you in a minute, to get everything distributed out into equal boxes for each customer, and they'll be ready tomorrow for delivery. This is where all those produce boxes are going. It's inside this vinyl structure here. This is just a Harbor Freight tent. It's like 10 by 20 feet long. Keeps everything nice and cool. There's a breeze going. All the packing will take place in here. What's been harvested on the farm today is already here, and the stuff that he's aggregated throughout the week, that's in the truck. That's all coming in here. This is where all the packing takes place, right behind me. All right, Max, how many customers do you have today?
Today we've got 104.
About how much does that represent in sales?
Let's see. Order sizes really vary, but I mean, we're doing around $2,000 a week in sales.
$2,000 a week, and it's all going to be packed here. Now, I'm sure 104 boxes. Like, I'm thinking that's going to be really confusing, but you've systematized it out. What's the basic flow for how this works?
It starts with the paperwork, which we have right here. We have a label printed out for every order. So first thing is the label goes on the box, and they're color coded according to which delivery route they go on, so that we can see at a very easy visual which boxes go in which pile. So that's the first thing. Then there's a different list for every order, and this is all the items in that order. And the lists are in the same order as the labels. So when someone picks up a label, they pick up a list, they pack their box. Within that list, the order of the items is the same order that they're lined up here in the tent. So everything moves in circles, not in jerky back and forths. So you grab your label, you label your box, you go to the end of the tent, and you start getting items, and you move in a straight line down. You never have to backtrack. Then when you get to the end, you put a lid on your bin, and it goes to the correct pile for its route.
The customer's box is what's in motion. The inventory is fixed.
Exactly. And the customer's box weighs maybe a ½ pound instead of 40 pounds or 50 pounds. So we're not lugging anything heavy around, except maybe the biggest of orders by the very end. And we have this table here to actually rest the order on while you put things into it. You can slide it along if you want. So it makes the packing process a lot easier.
I think you were saying, didn't you used to do it the other way?
Yep, used to do it the other way, and it was kind of a light bulb that went off one day, inspired by Ben Hartman, that we don't have to be taking the heavy boxes around. We could actually be taking the light boxes around.
One thing that could get confusing really quickly is all these vegetables and all these customers. How do you make sure all these vegetables get into the right boxes and the customers get what they're asking for, and keep it efficient so people aren't bumping into each other, wasting time, wasting steps? With 104 orders, you got to systematize it, and that's what Max has done. When you're selling, 30 separate products or so, how do you get all these vegetables lined up in the right order? Because ideally, what you want is a whole continuous line, so somebody starts at one end and just works their way down. It may sound simple, but it gets confusing because not every single person is going to order every single item on here. So Max has to do a little bit of back-end manipulation to come up with this list to get these products in the right order so he can have all of his products on here. So when he comes down to get an order for John Doe, who might only order 10 of these 30, he can just walk down and they're in a standardized order. Sounds confusing, I know. We'll show it on video when he's doing it. It'll make a lot more sense. One other thing that's really interesting that he's done is he's really tried to unitize everything. So when he's selling, say, cherry tomatoes, he's selling these by the unit, not by the weight. That way you don't have to deal with weighing these on the spot, which just takes up time, adds to confusion. So this is one unit, that one item goes in. When he does have to weigh things, one thing he did that I absolutely love is everything that has to be weighed gets its own scale right in front of it. That way you don't have a central weigh station. Everybody's not going to that one weigh station at once. It's going to avoid confusion. The scale goes right in front of the product that needs to be weighed. So as that person who's packing is moving down the line, they can weigh their product out, see what the weight is, bam, into the box. Scale stays there. They move on. This is a manufacturing problem. This is really lean when it comes down to it. This is all about efficiency of getting this done, and a lot of thought went into this process, because I know from talking to Max, he struggled for years on this, but now they have it figured out. This is where this aggregator model can get bad, so pay attention to this and see how he does it. Now it's time to start picking orders. Max, run us through a typical order just to show what this process is like.
Okay, so it starts with grabbing your label and your packing list, and they are listed in the same order. So you just have to double check that the name on the list is the same as the name on the label. You grab the two of those. By looking at the length of the list, you can pretty quickly determine whether you need a small bin, which is about 8 inches tall, or a larger bin, which is about twice that. Or in some cases, we have a couple very large bins for very large orders, which doesn't usually happen. Sometimes it does. We're always happy for the extra orders. So I'm determining I can probably fit this order in a small bin. You can grab a clipboard to make it easier. As you go around, you just clip your list onto the board. And what I do is I just pop the board in the box. You come over here, you slap the label on the bin. You want to keep it somewhat low down, because when you're looking at the boxes from above, you want to be able to see the name on the label very clearly. One simple piece of tape adheres the label. We don't use expensive sticky labels or anything, number one, because they're expensive. Number two, because they'd be a pain in the neck to be peeling off the boxes all the time, because we reuse these boxes every week. Then what I do is I just stand up the clipboard in the box like that. I'm staring at my order right here, and I walk down to the end of the table and start. First thing this guy ordered was a pound of apples, so I can set my bin down right here. I know about 3 apples are a pound, so I'm going to eyeball this, and I'm right on. There we go. Put it in the box, move on. Now, one note about the order of things on this table: heavier items are at the beginning, things that can be at the bottom of the box without being crushed. Lighter things, which are better on top of the box, are listed down the way, so we don't have to be rearranging in the box as we go. Next thing, he ordered a cucumber. Cucumbers we sell by the unit. 1 cucumber in the box. Carrots. Sometimes we do these by the pound, sometimes by the bunch. We happen to have them by the bunch today. So once again, very easy. You just drop it in the box, Move on. He ordered a dozen eggs. Those are down here. Throw it in the box. Move on. He ordered 2 leeks. Leeks are right here. A pound of yellow squash, that's right here. Notice I'm just moving down the table. I don't have to backtrack. I can eyeball the squash. And that is it's a hair under a pound, but it doesn't matter. It goes in the box anyways. He ordered Roma tomatoes. Those we sell by the basket, but we don't necessarily put them in the basket. So what I've written down here on the box, based on the size that I've seen they are today, 5 to 6 each. So I'm just going to grab 6 because I have a couple small ones. Toss them in the box. I'm going to cushion them with the carrot greens so they don't get smashed. Next item, and once again, the list is right here in front of me. I can hold the box and I'm looking straight at the list. He ordered a jalapeno. They're right here. In it goes. A head of red leaf lettuce. Right here. Nestle that on top. And one more item. You got a red bell pepper. So that order's done. You come over to the table here. Pop your list out. Lid goes on. And it would go over to the Ojai delivery route.
So far, seeing this aggregator model live, I'm really impressed by it. I first heard about it on the podcast I did with Max, and it was a little bit confusing, but now seeing it in place, it makes a lot of sense, and I see a lot of benefit to it for somebody who's looking to grow their farm or get somebody else in their life, a brother, a parent, a spouse involved in the farm who doesn't like the field work. This type of work is very relational. It's a business. There's no field growing here. It's just simply aggregating products from other producers in the area, assembling them and selling them CSA style or through a web source style like Max has. The benefit of this is you get to go out and support other producers out there. And for somebody who can't work in the field or doesn't like working in the field for whatever reason, this might be a better fit for their business. And I think it stacks perfectly onto a field-based business that's selling into a CSA or farmer's market, just like on Max's farm. So he has this two-pronged approach, farmers markets and the aggregator, and that's one thing that helps make his farm more resilient. You're using Sterilite totes here. Do you charge a deposit for the tote, or you just rely on the customer to put the old one out when you drop the new order off?
The latter. We rely on the customer, and in a couple cases we have to chase people down, but most of them are really good at it. We did initially charge a deposit. We charged a $10 deposit, which is about what the bin costs, a little less, but we charged that deposit initially, and we just thought it was a barrier to entry, and we wanted to make it really easy to join. And we realized that out of the delivery charge that we charge, we actually have segmented a portion of that to pay for the bins. And last time I ran the numbers, our cost per bin per order was 50 cents. And if I were to run those numbers again, it's going to be lower because obviously your cost per bin is higher up front because you bought most of your bins in the beginning. Now we're only buying in maybe 6 or 12 new bins a month, and we're just reusing those old ones. And as long as you keep them out of the sun, they last a long time. They get brittle if left in the sun, and so we try to explain that to our customers, not to leave them on their sunny porch all week. But you can get a lot of life out of them. They stack. The small ones stack on the big ones. So you can stack them interchangeably, and these sizes work out pretty well. We can fit a lot of orders into this small bin, and most of the rest fit into the large one.
I mean, one thing I like about this small bin is if you're looking at this, it's jammed full. Like sometimes you get a CSA box and it'll be a big huge box that, like a 13-inch TV would come in or something, an old-fashioned 13-inch TV, and it's like, about that full. And you feel like you're kind of getting ripped off. Like this box, if you look at it on the inside, it's mostly full. I think that helps from like a visual marketing standpoint, is you're giving somebody a full box versus using a bigger box and there's the same amount of product in there. So there's just less dead space.
Totally. And a couple cool things about these crates, they're clear. So you see all the beautiful fruits and veggies in it when you pick it up. It's not opaque, but the tops are white. And so if it's in the sun for a while, the white is going to be reflecting the sun, but you can still see inside the box and see what's in there.
Right. The snap lids are nice too. They're not going to fall off in delivery. They're not going to fall off if somebody's carrying them.
Exactly.
You're saying it helps keep moisture in, air in. There's a little microclimate in there now.
Totally. And the other thing about keeping the bins as small as you can and as full as you can is when you start putting things on a delivery vehicle, you do not want to be shipping dead space. you want to be shipping veg. And the smaller box we can get it into, we do. We sometimes even use these boxes right here. If we fill that box and it looks pathetically empty, we will actually transfer the label, put it in this small box, which we call minis, and it'll go out in a mini.
You know, for one thing I noticed in this order here that you picked, somebody got 1 jalapeno, they're getting 2 squash, I think there was 1 of something else in there. How do you charge based upon all this stuff? It's just per unit. So if somebody's getting 1 jalapeno, they're just literally paying for 1 jalapeno, and they're getting a total. So all these orders are a different price. Or is it that way, or do people have a certain amount of credit, you know, $20 each week to spend, and they allocate it a certain way?
No, each order is a different price, and they're charged for that order. It's honestly it's no different than any other online store where you know, you go and you fill up a cart and you see your total at the end of it, and that total is what you pay.
When it comes to delivery, how are you building that charge in? Because I know that that could be a turnoff for a lot of farmers out there. They don't want to be driving. Some customers are going to live close. Some customers are going to live far. How have you managed to handle delivery?
Well, for one thing, we keep it within a specific zone. There are 3 different cities, all within half an hour or less from the farm, and we don't deliver outside those cities or unincorporated areas in between them, which we can access easily. So we know we're not driving too far for any delivery, and by concentrating over a period of time in that zone, the more stops we pick up, the more efficient it is to send a driver out on the road, because he's making multiple stops within the same small area. We charge a flat rate of $5 per delivery, and out of that cost, I'm able to pay the driver, and I'm able to pay for the bin, and I'm able to pay for the software that I use to configure the routes, and we even have a little bit left over to cover other miscellaneous charges that come up associated with delivery and packing.
You know, when it comes to delivery, do you also have part of the product price factor in the delivery charge? Like, so there's not a delivery charge built in. You're charging $5 for delivery, which covers those things, but you also factor in delivery when you price these products, or are these products just priced upon you adding a margin on what you wholesale them for?
Until recently, I did not factor delivery into the cost of the product. One item I did raise my prices on recently was lettuce. The reason being that a head of lettuce takes up a lot of space in the bin, and you can sell a head of lettuce for $1.50, $1.75, or you can sell a little clam of cherry tomatoes for $4. So I'm getting much better value per space in the box with the cherry tomatoes than I am with that big head of lettuce that's taking up a lot of space. So this system is prejudicial towards smaller items. Or microgreens, for example. You know, the smaller the item and the higher the value, the better it is in this system because it's being shipped. And you know, heavy, big items like, well, lettuce because it's bulky.
Some of those butternut
squash because they're heavy.
Yeah.
You know, when we're lifting, you know, 3 orders at a time, which we try to lift them in groups of 3, if there's a lot of heavy things in that bin, that can get pretty heavy.
Right. It's often like, I guess, thinking of field space in a bed. You know, you're looking at what's the dollar value per linear foot of bed space. You're trying to maximize that. In the case of box space, when it comes to delivery, you're trying to optimize like the dollar value per cubic inch in that box. But like you said, I wouldn't have never thought of that. Lettuce is light, it takes up a lot of room, and you're not going to get as much for it as tomatoes, which you could fit a lot more of in the box. And like when you only have a delivery vehicle that's limited in space, standardized box sizes, efficiency becomes a big part of the delivery route and packing it to make sure it's all going to work.
Exactly. We've even gone as far as to tell certain farmers that we want smaller bunches because we're trying to fit it all in the box. And you know, sometimes a bunch would show up so large that we would have to, because of that one item, upgrade it from a small, what would normally fit in a small box has to go to a big, and then it's just taking up that much more space on the delivery driver's vehicle.
For somebody at home that's watching this and they're thinking about doing this aggregator model, let's say you're sourcing microgreens from a local grower. You have 2 different prices to think about when you price your product. You have the wholesale price, so this is the price you're buying this at from the grower. They're going to charge you some amount to wholesale it. On the other hand, if you grew this or you sold this at a farmer's market, you'd have price B, which is going to be higher than price A because the wholesaler is giving you a discount presumably because you're buying a bunch in one shot on volume. When you compare wholesale price to retail price and build it into this web store model, how do you figure out where to price your product for the farm store and how much margin you want to add to this to have it make sense?
It really depends. There are a lot of factors that go into pricing. We try to stay within a mid-range pricing level, and we do not charge top dollar for most of our products.
So for instance, this from your farm store is going to be cheaper than if they bought it at your farmer's market booth. Or some products.
Well, so in the case of microgreens at the farmer's market, we do $4 or 3 for $10. For a while, I tried to do quantity discounts in the web store, and it turned into a total headache because suddenly an item which takes up one space on the table is now taking up two, because you've got the 1-pack and you've got the 3-pack. Or if it's taking up the same amount of space, then you're counting on workers to notice in the flurry of packing that was a 3-pounder and not a 1-pounder, and oh, oops, I gave this person 1 pound instead of 3 pounds. So we did away with product variations within the same product, and so what I do is I charge $3.75 for what I charge $4 for. It's a little bit less than if they buy 1 at the market. It's a little bit more than if they bought 3, and it kind of evens out that way with that particular example.
You know, with say generic vegetable, carrot, squash, what factors do you use when adding your margin to the product?
Well, wholesale price is the first one. I see what the wholesale price is, and then I have a target for a retail price that I want to hit. Sometimes the wholesale price is so high that I have to go higher on the retail price in order to get the margin that I want. I'm never going to sell something for less than a 20% margin. I tried it at one point. We were actually selling meat for a while. We dabbled in selling meat from a grass-fed rancher, and he was giving me his product at 15%. We agreed to sell at his retail prices, and he was giving me a 15% discount. We tried to make it work. Then finally, when I ran the numbers, I realized I pretty much have my operating costs are pretty much 15% of the retail price. So if I'm not getting at least 20, I'm not even making money on it.
Right.
So 20% is the absolute low end.
And there you're only making 5% when you factor in costs.
Exactly. Not really worth it. So 20 is the minimum I want to see, and if I can push it to 60 or 70 on certain items that we can then push a lot of, like when tomatoes are in full production in the summer, farmers are selling them really cheap. I can hold my retail price. If I'm getting 70% margin on those items, then that makes it a little more worth it to sell the 30, even in some cases the 20% items, and it balances out to more of a 40% margin overall.
In operating this over the last few years, have you found vegetables that don't really work well in this model that you stay away from?
Yeah, watermelons is one. I tried 1 week selling watermelons, and simply the size, unless it's going to be one of those mini watermelons, one of those newer hybrid smaller watermelons, I just can't sell them because of the size. I can't fit it in the box. We tried doing it separate and then writing on the outside of the box that they had a watermelon waiting for them in this box over here, and ultimately I realized it's too much of a headache. It's not going to work for this
confusion, a lot of
model.
room for mistakes.
Yep.
That's something I've taken from you just being around the farm today, within this system and outside in your growing area. It's eliminate confusion, simplify it down, try and make it as straightforward as possible. If there's areas that seem like they can be misinterpreted or go awry, just eliminate them. Like, there's no need to add that confusion to sell the watermelon, because it's not going to make a lick of difference at the end of the day for your business.
Yeah.
And there's enough stuff that you can sell that works for the model, so why force it for stuff that doesn't?
Exactly. Flowers are another example. Flowers just don't work with packing in the box. Basically anything. We used to sell a few items outside the box. The watermelons happened for 1 week. We used to sell a 10-pound bag of oranges, which we would deliver alongside the box, and there would be a label on the front of the box, and we had a system for it. It worked okay, but too many times the oranges would get left behind, or the driver would forget them because he's used to just dropping a box and not grabbing the extra item. We were definitely doing it for meat. Meat was packed separately in a cooler, delivered straight into the customer's cooler, and I'm interested to try it again in the future, but for the time being, we just eliminated anything outside the box.
In terms of non-veg products, you have some eggs here. You have duck eggs, chicken eggs too, I think I saw.
A few, yeah.
In there. Are there any other products that aren't veg that you carry?
Beyond veg and fruits, I mean, we've carried dates. I guess you'd call it a fruit. We carried a locally made granola at one point. We did bread for a while, but that got to be a hassle too because we had to rebag it such that it didn't get wet, and the baker wasn't really able to deliver to us when we needed it, so that too proved to be too much of a hassle. But I mean, our dream would be to offer any number of value-added products that were locally produced, either on farm or by small businesses.
How well do eggs work in this model for you? I mean, between the markup that you're able to get in terms of margin and the demand for them?
Kind of so-so. I mean, right now we're buying in eggs at $4 a dozen from a producer in Fillmore and selling them for $6. And
what about the duck eggs? What are you selling duck eggs for?
well, this is our first week doing the duck eggs. We're buying them in $4 a half dozen, and I'm selling them for $5.50.
Okay, so thin margins there.
Not the biggest margin, not the biggest margin, and not a huge demand either. At least not for duck eggs. The chicken eggs we could sell more of if we had them regularly. We only had that wholesale price if the producer has extra. So on weeks that we have eggs, we put them in the store. On weeks that we don't, our customers realize we just don't have them.
Right. With 104 orders this week and this amount of product behind me, where is that in terms of capacity? Like, how much more could you scale this, do you think, with the equipment and infrastructure you have?
With the current equipment and infrastructure, I mean, we've packed as many as, I think, 125 orders. That's been our maximum for a given week. It's usually highest in the spring and in the fall, so we're getting into a busier zone now. If we want to cram into the tent, we could probably go up to 140 or so orders into this current tent here. But the beauty of the tent is that this is 2 tents put together. We could put a third one on, we could put a fourth one on, and basically you would need more space to well, no, I take it back. I take it back. If we kept offering the same number of items, that's what determines the tent space, is the items lined up here. We can have more of the same stacked under the table or even waiting outside ready to come in here and be put up on the table once that box is empty. The real limiting factor is delivery drivers at the moment. I would have to get more delivery drivers because both the drivers I have are pretty much maxed out in terms of vehicle size. But honestly, we can hire another crew member if it takes too long to pack. So we can add more crew on the packing. We could hire another driver. It'd just be a matter of finding the person. If we want to offer more items, we could extend the tent. The software can handle an unlimited number of orders. At this scale we are now, with the money coming in, buying extra bins is no problem. It's spread over all those orders. And, even if we had to buy in 50 bins, we could do that.
And software is one of the things that makes this model really work. Like if you were trying to do this all by hand or in Excel, it'd be a nightmare trying to organize this. So you use Farmigo to keep it all systematized for you, and that's what makes your life a lot easier come packing day.
It makes it doable. I mean, I literally don't think I could keep my sanity and pack 104 custom orders without the software and the reports. I certainly couldn't be farming at the same time.
One thing I can see a lot of farmers saying, like, I like it, but the delivery, I don't want to do the delivery even if I'm charging for it. How do you handle delivery drivers? Are they employees? What's made that work?
I've tried to avoid hiring them as employees, and I used to do all the delivery myself, and I actually appreciated keeping that $5 delivery charge for myself in the beginning. It was like I built myself a delivery job on top of the web store, and I was getting paid for that, and I appreciated that. Came to a certain scale, I didn't want to be on the road 8 hours a day, and there was one day where I had to take over for both the delivery drivers who were missing that day, and it was literally an 8-hour day delivering, and that was probably 80 orders. That's 10 per hour, not bad, but it's 8 hours on the road. What we do now is we find people who have a vehicle large enough that they can use their own vehicle, so I don't have to buy a delivery vehicle, and they are treated as independent contractors. They show up within certain time parameters, but they show up on their own time. I have one lady who comes literally before dawn. She comes, loads up in pitch dark, does a bunch of orders, drops her son off at school, and then finishes up the orders afterwards. And she's done in about 3 hours, and she's paid per stop. So they're not paid by the hour as an employee would. They're paid simply per stop. They're paid for their service. They get paid, depending on which route they're doing, about $3 a stop goes towards the driver. They have to pay their own vehicle expenses. They own the vehicle, they maintain it, that's all on them. and they're paid per stop. And basically, it's as fast or slow as they want to go. They can get paid according to how quickly they deliver.
Yeah, it's brilliant. It takes that added burden of having an employee off, and it's kind of open source business or freeform, very much of the Uber model like we talked about on the podcast.
Totally. Yeah. Uber was what inspired it, alongside seeing these professional companies like Golden State Overnight, which is they're a kind of I think a California only shipping company, and OnTrack, which is in several different western states. We were getting things from Amazon and they were showing up in this guy's personal vehicle with a little OnTrack sticker on it. And I asked him, I said, "Is this your own vehicle?" And he said, "Yeah, I'm a contract driver for OnTrack." And that was the light bulb right there.
All right, so apples, 1 pound. Saw you do it before, so we're gonna go with 3. And we're close, so we're in.
Yep, if it's in the range of the red, we're good.
Cucumbers, 1 each. Beets bunched, 1 bunch. Carrots, 1 bunch. Bam, so that's done. Now it's gonna go on the table. You get a lid on it. All right, lid it up. I guess here's the one step we didn't cover. Like, what do you do with this now? Clipboard.
Stays on. The list stays on the board. You just grab a new list, throw it on the board.
Cycle back through.
Yep.
All right, right on.
So how hard was that, Diego?
Easy. Makes sense. Like, the alignment is total key, and I love the fact that there's a scale at each station where you need to be weighed. Like, you've pulled a lot of the confusion out of this and made it really simple to do. So not bad at all.
So originally we had everyone finish their order and then run it to the proper pile for the route that it was going in. Then actually Nicole here suggested, why don't we stack up 3 on the table, or whatever, maybe 4 if they're small, and the person who stacked the 3rd or 4th picks them all up, runs them over at the same time. So you're doing 1/3 the running.
So those all the greens are all one route.
Exactly, yeah. So and they're organized such that they're together in the labels. So it's going to be all greens for a while, then all pinks, then all yellows. And so you just have to check that they're the same color, which you can see at a glance because it's color coded, and you run it to the appropriate route.
And Max, how do you think it's going so far?
Going great. Okay, we've got a good crew. 4 is a pretty good number for the size of this tent. We're probably, what would you say, girls, a little more than halfway through right now. Looking at the number of boxes.
About halfway through. It's been about an hour.
Yeah, about that. And it takes a little longer to get started. So now that we're on a roll, it just flows.
You're all packed up. How do you think it went?
It went great. There's always a few little glitches that you got to handle in the moment. Like we left some lettuce in the walk-in cooler. Someone had to run home and get that. But other than that, we packed over 100 orders in a little under than an hour and a half. Now we're ready to load the trucks.
Now that Max is all finished packing orders for the day, the next step is to just consolidate everything that's leftover produce that needs to go back into the walk-in, gets reboxed up, condensed down. That'll go back to Max's house, into the walk-in. The stuff that can stay outside, like garlic at this temperature, will get consolidated and put in the pack shed here. Then it comes time to take all the piles, which have been sorted per delivery route. They're color coded, so I think there's 4 different piles there. They get sorted out based upon delivery order, kind of in reverse order. So when they go into the vehicle, the first thing in is the last stop on the route. So when the driver's delivering, they're essentially just pulling from the front all the time, working their way through the route, working their way through the pile. There's also a pile that goes back to Max's house, which is for a local pickup right here in Ojai. People come pick it up tomorrow if they don't get the delivery. So now we sort all that out.
On the passenger side.
It's just about 6 o'clock right now. Everything has been packed. The orders are all set in the trucks and the vehicles for delivery. The orders that stay here, were done. It took about 2 hours to do the packing and loading up the orders for delivery. Probably took another hour of prep by the time we unloaded the walk-in cooler, drove here and got the site prepped. But not a bad day's work, 3 hours plus all the pickup time. So I think Max City spends about a day and a half a week dedicated to this business. But now that this part is done, the best part about it is he doesn't have to touch any of this again. The delivery drivers take it where they need to go. The home pickups come and pick it up where he lives, and that's it. But it's a unique way if you want to sell more product locally, if you want to get involved in the local food scene, you don't want to be a farmer, here's one model to do it. If you want a way to diversify your income stream on your farm, here's a way to do it. Check out the podcast that I did with Max, talking more in depth about this episode, link to those below. But that's all for this one from Ojai. Thanks for listening. More tomorrow. Until next time, be nice, be thankful, and do the work.